the deep ache in our hearts when we think of those who have passed, the yearning to know if that connection, that love, continues beyond this life. Will we embrace them again? This question touches the core of our human experience. I invite you to stay with me on this journey of exploration, because the understanding we may find at the very end could illuminate your path in ways you cannot yet imagine. Human yearning. There is a question that echoes in the quiet spaces of many minds, a whisper from the heart that asks about reunion. When those we love depart from this physical realm, when their laughter no longer fills our rooms and their hands are no longer there to hold, a profound sense of incompleteness can settle within us. We look towards the unknown, towards what we might call heaven or an afterlife, and the deepest desire is often for continuity. Will I know my mother? Will my child recognize me? Will the bonds that define so much of our joy on this earth persist? This yearning is not a weakness. It is a testament to the depth of love we are capable of feeling. It speaks of connection, of bonds that feel too strong, too real, to simply vanish like mist in the morning sun. We are beings who seek meaning, who cherish relationships, and the thought of an ultimate separation can bring a shadow over our spirit. It is important to acknowledge this feeling, this very human longing, without judgment. It arises from love, and love is a powerful, sacred energy. So, we begin not with answers, but with an acceptance of this profound question that lives within us, a question carried by generations before us, and likely by generations to come. It's a reflection of our capacity to care so deeply that the thought of eternal severance is almost unbearable. This exploration, then, is not about providing definitive, concrete maps of a realm unseen, but about finding a way to hold this question with wisdom, with peace, and perhaps to discover a truth that soothes the yearning soul, not with simple promises, but with a deeper understanding of what it means to connect, to love, and to be. We are looking for comfort, yes, but more than comfort, we are seeking a truth that resonates with the deepest part of our being, a truth that allows us to live more fully now and to face the future, whatever it may hold, with an open heart and a serene mind. This inquiry into what happens after, especially concerning our loved ones, often stems from a place of anticipated grief or ongoing grief. We are trying to understand the landscape of loss. Is it total? Is it transformative? The mind struggles with the concept of non-existence, particularly for those whose existence was so intertwined with our own. So, we project our current understanding of identity, of recognition, onto a future state. We imagine a heavenly place where familiar forms meet, where conversations pick up, where earthly roles continue. And while this imagery can provide temporary solace, it is also useful to gently examine the foundations of these expectations. Are we seeking a continuation of the familiar, or is there a possibility of something even more profound, a connection that transcends the limitations of our current perception? The masters of old often spoke of the importance of understanding the nature of our own minds, our attachments, our projections, because it is through this understanding that we can begin to touch a more stable, a more enduring sense of peace, one that is not entirely dependent on specific outcomes or familiar scenarios. This journey is about exploring the nature of self, the nature of connection, and the nature of what might be called eternal. It's a path that requires courage, the courage to look beyond our conditioned hopes and fears and to open ourselves to a vaster perspective. The human heart, in its immense capacity for love, also holds an immense capacity for wisdom. Let us engage both as we walk this path together, looking for clarity, not for fantasy, for understanding, not just for reassurance based on what we already think we know. The truth we seek might be simpler and at the same time more magnificent than our current concepts allow. Earthly forms, when we speak of knowing each other, of recognizing our family in a realm beyond this one, we are often, perhaps unconsciously, referring to the forms and identities we have come to cherish here. We know a person by their face, their voice, the unique way they laugh, their habits, their memories, their stories. These are the characteristics that weave the tapestry of a distinct personality, the individual self that we interact with, love, and remember. But what are these forms? From a certain perspective, the body is a temporary vessel, constantly changing, growing, aging, and eventually returning to the elements from which it came. Our personalities, too, are shaped by a multitude of transient factors. Our upbringing, our experiences, our culture, our thoughts, our emotions. These are not fixed, immutable things. Think of how you have changed throughout your own life, from childhood to adolescence to adulthood. The you of today is different from the you of 20 years ago, though a thread of continuity remains. This is the nature of conditioned existence. It is impermanent, in constant flux. So, when we ask if we will know our loved ones, we must also ask, which version of them? Which version of ourselves? The form we loved is intrinsically tied to this earthly experience. If the very conditions that give rise to these specific forms are absent in another state of existence, then how would recognition, as we currently understand it, occur? This is not to diminish the beauty or significance of these earthly forms and identities. They are the vehicles through which love is expressed and experienced in this life, and that is sacred. However, clinging too tightly to the idea that these exact forms must persist unchanged forever can become a source of subtle anxiety, a resistance to the natural flow of existence, which is, in its essence, change. The wisdom traditions often guide us to look deeper beyond the surface appearances, to an essence that might underlie the transient personality and physical body. Is there something more fundamental, a core of being, that is not entirely defined by these temporary attributes? If such an essence exists, then perhaps knowing in another realm would be a recognition of this essence, rather than a recollection of a specific earthly persona. This requires a shift in our perspective, a willingness to consider that connection might operate on a level far more profound than the everyday interactions we are accustomed to. It invites us to meditate on what truly constitutes a person, what it is that we love when we love someone. Is it merely the collection of their habits and appearances, or is it something more, something that shines through those things? The concept of self is one of anatta, or no self, in some traditions. This doesn't mean we don't exist. It means that the fixed, independent, permanent self we imagine ourselves to be is an illusion, a construct of various aggregates, form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, all of which are impermanent and interdependent. If this is true for us here, then the self that transitions, if it does, might be understood very differently. The attachment to a specific I and a specific you as unchanging entities can be the root of much suffering, both in life and in our contemplations of death and beyond. When we truly investigate this, we may find that what we are really seeking is not the preservation of a static identity, but the continuation of love, of connection, of a fundamental resonance. If we can gently loosen our grip on the idea that recognition must look exactly as it does now, familiar faces in a familiar setting, we open ourselves to the possibility of a different kind of reunion, perhaps a merging, a knowing that is beyond words and forms, a direct apprehension of presence. This is not an easy thought, for our human hearts are deeply conditioned to love the specific, but the path of wisdom often involves expanding our understanding, gently stretching the boundaries of our concepts. Consider the caterpillar and the butterfly. The butterfly does not know its life as a caterpillar in the same way, yet there is a continuity of being. The form is utterly transformed, the mode of existence completely different, yet an essential life stream continues. Perhaps this analogy, though imperfect, can offer a small window into thinking about transformation beyond what we can easily conceive. The journey then becomes one of cultivating an awareness of this deeper essence in ourselves and in others, even now, in this life. For if we can connect with that, the changes in outer forms, however significant, may not hold the same power to cause us distress about the ultimate nature of knowing and being known. Conscious essence. If our earthly forms, our personalities, our memories as we currently hold them, are transient and conditioned by this specific life, then what could possibly persist? What could be the basis for any kind of knowing or reunion? Many spiritual traditions, and indeed some philosophical inquiries, point towards the idea of a conscious essence, a fundamental awareness, or a spark of being that is more primary than the constructed self. This is not to be confused with a fixed soul in the sense of an unchanging personality, but rather as the very capacity for experience, the light of awareness itself. Think of it like this: the content of your mind, your thoughts, emotions, memories, is constantly changing, like clouds in the sky. But the sky itself, the space in which these clouds appear and disappear, represents something more constant, a fundamental awareness. Is it possible that this core awareness, this knowing capacity, is what endures beyond the dissolution of the physical body and the personal ego structure? If so, then connection in another realm might not be about two distinct personalities meeting and chatting as they did over dinner. It might be a joining or a recognition at the level of this fundamental consciousness, a resonance of pure being with pure being. This is, of course, deep water for the conceptual mind, for we are so accustomed to identifying ourselves with the content of our experience rather than the space of awareness itself. But it is in exploring this distinction that we may find a different kind of hope, a different understanding of continuity. Imagine the wave in the ocean. The wave has a distinct form, a temporary identity. It rises, it travels, it crashes. Its form is gone. But is the water that constituted the wave gone? No, the water has simply merged back into the vastness of the ocean. It has returned to its essential nature. Perhaps our individual consciousness is like that wave. Its specific form as John or Mary is temporary, but the underlying water, the pure consciousness, is part of a greater whole, an ocean of awareness. If this is the case, then knowing family in heaven might be more like these essences recognizing each other as part of the same ocean, a feeling of oneness, of shared being, rather than a detailed recall of earthly biographies. This might sound abstract, but it points to a connection that is, in a way, even more profound and unbreakable, because it is not dependent on the fragile structures of memory and form. The cultivation of presence, of mindful awareness in our daily lives, is actually a way of becoming more familiar with this conscious essence, this ground of being. When we sit in meditation, when we become still and observe the flow of our thoughts and sensations without identifying with them, we are, in a sense, touching this deeper aspect of ourselves. We are learning to distinguish between the transient phenomena of the mind and the awareness that perceives them. If there is something that continues, it is more likely to be this quality of awareness, refined and purified, than the collection of our conditioned habits and preferences. This perspective can shift our focus from anxiously wondering about the preservation of our personality to aspiring towards the purification and expansion of our consciousness. The great spiritual teachers often emphasize that what we truly are is far vaster than what we think we are. Our true nature is not limited to this small biographical self. If we can begin to identify more with this unbound awareness, then the idea of death transforms from an annihilation into a transition, a shedding of limitations. And if our loved ones are also, in their essence, this unbound awareness, then the possibility of connection takes on a new dimension. It's no longer about whether my limited ego will recognize your limited ego. It's about whether pure consciousness can recognize and resonate with pure consciousness. In such a state, the love that bound us, stripped of all its earthly conditions and attachments, might shine forth in its purest form as a radiant energy, a quality of that shared ocean of being. This doesn't offer the concrete details that our grieving human hearts sometimes crave, but it offers a vision of continuity and connection that is both grand and deeply intimate, rooted in the very nature of what it means to be a conscious, sentient being. The journey towards understanding this is a journey inward, to discover the timeless within the timely. Love transcends. Love. This powerful word, this profound experience, is perhaps at the very heart of our question. When we ask if we will know our family in heaven, what we are truly asking in many ways is whether the love we shared will endure. Will that bond, which felt so real, so vital, so central to our existence, simply cease to be? Perhaps we need to consider the nature of love itself. Is love merely an emotional response tied to a specific person's form and personality, or is it something more, an energy, a force, a fundamental quality of existence that manifests through individuals but is not limited by them? If love is only an attachment to a transient form, then yes, when the form dissolves, that particular expression of love might also change or seem to disappear. But what if true love, in its deepest sense, is an expression of that conscious essence we spoke of, a resonance between beings at a level more profound than the ego? What if it is a participation in a universal field of compassion and connection? In this case, the love itself doesn't die. It is an energy that cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The specific way it was expressed through a particular relationship with a particular person in a particular lifetime is unique and precious, and the loss of that expression is undeniably painful. But the love itself, as a fundamental quality, may transcend the boundaries of individual lives and forms. Think of the sun's light. It shines on a particular flower, and that flower experiences the warmth and energy in its own unique way. When the flower fades, the sun's light is not diminished. It continues to shine, to give warmth, to sustain life in other forms. Perhaps the love we share is like that light. It illuminated our lives through the presence of a specific loved one. When they are gone, that specific illumination changes, but the source of the light, the fundamental energy of love, remains. If we are all, in our essence, part of this greater field of consciousness, then perhaps in a realm beyond physical form, the love that connected us becomes the very medium of recognition. We might not recognize a face, but we might recognize a presence, a unique vibration of love that we knew, a resonance that feels familiar to the deepest part of our being. This is a knowing that transcends intellectual understanding or sensory perception as we currently experience it. It is a heart knowing, an essence knowing. The practices of loving kindness and compassion, cultivated here and now, are not just about being a good person. They are about attuning ourselves to this fundamental energy of love. By cultivating these qualities within our own hearts, by striving to love more unconditionally, with less attachment to specific outcomes or rewards, we are, in a sense, purifying our own capacity to participate in this transcendent love. The more we can experience and express love in its less conditional forms in this life, the more we might be prepared to recognize and merge with it in any future state. If heaven is a state of being characterized by pure love and light, then our ability to resonate with that state would depend on the quality of love we have cultivated within ourselves. So, the love we feel for our family, if we can gradually purify it of its more clinging, possessive aspects and allow it to become a more expansive, compassionate force, this very love becomes a bridge. It is not just a memory of an earthly emotion, it becomes a living quality of our own consciousness that can connect with that same quality in others, regardless of the form they or we may take. This doesn't mean we stop missing the specific person, their unique smile, their touch. The human heart will grieve that specific loss. But beneath the grief, we can hold the understanding that the love itself is not lost. It is part of the eternal fabric of existence. And in that there is a profound and abiding comfort, a sense that the connections that truly matter are woven into something far vaster and more enduring than our individual, fleeting lives. This love, then, is not just something we feel, it is something we are, something we can become, and something that ultimately connects all. Letting go. A central teaching in many wisdom traditions revolves around the principle of letting go, of non-attachment. This is often misunderstood as becoming cold or indifferent, but that is not its true meaning at all. It is about releasing our tight grip on specific outcomes, on our fixed ideas of how things should be, including how a reunion in an afterlife must look. When we cling desperately to the idea that we must recognize our loved ones in exactly the same way we knew them here, with the same bodies, personalities, and memories, we may be setting ourselves up for a subtle form of suffering. This clinging arises from fear of loss, fear of the unknown. But true peace, true liberation, comes from a place of acceptance, of openness to reality as it is, or as it may be, rather than as we demand it to be. Letting go in this context means acknowledging our deep love and our longing for connection, but also cultivating a spaciousness around our expectations. It means trusting that if there is a fundamental goodness, a fundamental intelligence or love at the core of existence, then whatever unfolds will be in accordance with that, even if it doesn't match our limited human projections. Can we love our family members so purely that we wish for their ultimate peace and happiness, regardless of whether that state includes a reunion with us in the specific way we imagine? This is a profound challenge to our ego, which naturally wants to be part of that picture. But it is a path towards a more unconditional love, and paradoxically, a deeper sense of connection that is not dependent on conditions. When we let go of the need for things to be a certain way, we create space for something new, perhaps something far more beautiful and meaningful than our current minds can conceive, to arise. It's like holding sand in your hand. If you clutch it too tightly, it slips through your fingers. If you hold it with an open palm, it can rest there. Our expectations about the afterlife can be like that. The practice of letting go begins now, in this life. We practice letting go of small annoyances, of our attachment to being right, of our grievances from the past. We practice accepting change, because change is the nature of all phenomenal existence. Each moment is new. Each day brings transformations, small and large. By learning to navigate these changes with a degree of equanimity and acceptance, we are training our minds to be less rigid, more adaptable, more open. This training is invaluable when we face the great changes, such as the loss of a loved one or the contemplation of our own mortality. If our peace of mind is contingent upon everything staying the same, or upon the afterlife conforming to our specific desires, then we are building our house on a very unstable foundation. But if we can cultivate an inner peace that is rooted in something deeper, in our connection to that conscious essence, in our capacity for love and compassion, in our acceptance of the flow of life, then we become more resilient, more able to face the unknown with courage and serenity. Letting go of the need to know all the answers, to have a detailed map of heaven, is itself a profound spiritual practice. It is an act of humility, acknowledging the vast mystery of existence. It is an act of trust, not in a specific doctrine, but in the inherent wisdom that may guide the unfolding of all things. So, while the question of knowing our family is deeply human and valid, perhaps the path to peace with this question lies not in finding a definitive yes that matches our current understanding, but in cultivating a heart so open, so trusting, so filled with unconditional love that it can embrace whatever truth awaits, knowing that any existence permeated by true love and consciousness must, in its essence, be good. True knowing. What would it truly mean to know someone in a state beyond physical form, beyond the personality and memories that define our earthly relationships? Our current mode of knowing is so heavily reliant on sensory input, on shared history, on the nuances of verbal and non-verbal communication. If these are absent or radically transformed, then recognition itself must be of a different order. Perhaps true knowing in such a context is less about a cognitive recollection of facts and faces and more about a direct intuitive apprehension of essence. Imagine two flames merging into one larger flame. Do the individual flames know each other in the way they did when they were separate? Or is there now a unified brilliance, a shared incandescence where separation is no longer relevant? This analogy might hint at a kind of knowing that is about union, about resonance, about a deep vibrational familiarity. If, as discussed, our core being is a form of conscious energy or a spark of a universal awareness, then perhaps the knowing is an immediate recognition of another such spark, a sense of, you too are of this same light. It could be a knowing that bypasses the intellect entirely, perceived by a faculty of the soul or spirit that lies dormant or underdeveloped in most of us during our earthly lives, conditioned as we are by the dominance of the rational mind and the physical senses. This deeper knowing might be based on the unique vibrational signature of a soul's love, its accumulated wisdom, its particular quality of compassion, cultivated over lifetimes or through profound experience. We might not see a familiar face, but we might feel an unmistakable presence, a warmth, a love that is intrinsically, uniquely them at their deepest level of being. This kind of knowing would be far more infallible than our current methods, which can often be mistaken based on superficial appearances or projections. It would be a knowing from core to core, essence to essence. Consider the love between a mother and a newborn child. The child doesn't know the mother in an intellectual sense. It doesn't know her history, her name, her accomplishments. Yet, there is a profound primal recognition, a bond that operates on a level deeper than thought. This is an instinctual, energetic connection. Could it be that the knowing in a realm beyond this one is an amplified, purified version of this kind of essential recognition? A knowing where all the superficial layers that often obscure our true selves from one another are stripped away, and what remains is the pure essence, the untarnished light of being. In such a state, deception would be impossible, misunderstanding would vanish. We would see, or rather perceive each other as we truly are, in our most fundamental nature. And if that fundamental nature is rooted in love, in consciousness, then such a knowing would be an experience of profound joy and peace. The earthly personality, with all its quirks and flaws, its history and conditioning, might simply be like a garment that has been laid aside. What is recognized is the wearer, not the garment. This doesn't negate the love we had for the person in their earthly garment. It simply suggests that the connection can evolve to an even deeper, more essential level. So, the question shifts from, will I recognize their old face, to will I be able to perceive their true essence, and they mine? And the preparation for such a knowing is again, the cultivation of our own inner clarity, the stripping away of our own illusions about ourselves, so that our own essence can shine more brightly, ready to recognize and be recognized by the light in others. It points to a reunion that is not a mere continuation, but a sublime culmination. Inner peace. Ultimately, while we ponder the mysteries of what lies beyond, the most vital practice is to cultivate peace, love, and understanding within ourselves, right here, right now. For whatever the nature of heaven or the afterlife may be, our capacity to experience its beauty, its harmony, its love, will surely depend on the qualities we have nurtured within our own hearts and minds during this earthly existence. If heaven is a state of profound peace, then a mind agitated by turmoil, resentment, or fear will struggle to perceive or enter it. If it is a realm of pure love, then a heart closed by anger or selfishness will find itself out of tune with that reality. The journey to any desirable future state begins with the transformation of our present state. This is a wonderfully empowering understanding because it brings the focus back from helpless speculation about the unknown to potent action in the known. We cannot definitively map the geography of the afterlife, but we can, with dedicated effort, cultivate the inner landscape of our own being. By practicing forgiveness, we lighten our own spirit. By cultivating compassion, we expand our heart. By seeking wisdom, we illuminate our mind. By striving for mindfulness and presence, we touch the timeless quality of our own conscious essence. These are not just ethical injunctions or self-improvement techniques. They are the very methods by which we prepare ourselves for a deeper, more meaningful existence, both now and in whatever may follow. The peace we seek in heaven can begin to be experienced as heaven within, even amidst the challenges of this world. When we find that inner stillness, that core of serenity that is unshaken by the storms of life, we are tasting a quality of being that is perhaps eternal. And from that place of inner peace, our questions about the future, while still present, lose their anxious charge. We can hold them more lightly with a sense of trust and equanimity. The desire to know our loved ones again is natural and beautiful, but perhaps the most profound way to honor them and to prepare for any possible reunion is to live our own lives as fully, as lovingly, and as consciously as possible. It is to become the best version of ourselves, to let our own light shine. If there is a connection that transcends death, it is likely to be a connection of spirit, of essence, and the more we refine our own spirit, the more attuned we become to that level of reality. So, let your actions today be guided by love. Let your thoughts be sources of clarity and kindness. Let your heart be open. If you do this, you are not only creating a better life for yourself and those around you now, but you are also, in the deepest sense, preparing for whatever comes next. The truth about family in heaven may not be a simple set of facts that can be written in a book. It may be an experiential truth, one that unfolds for each being according to their own journey and development. But the foundation for experiencing that truth in its most positive and expansive form is built now in the daily choices we make, in the quality of presence we bring to each moment, in the love we allow to flow through us. Find your peace within, and you will be ready to meet peace wherever it may be found. The final insight, then, is that the path to understanding reunion beyond is walked through the cultivation of connection, love, and awareness within. The connections we forge in love, the essence of who we are and who they were, these things are not so easily erased. While forms may change and memories may shift like desert sands, the imprint of a soul touched by love, the resonance of a heart that has truly connected, this echoes in the vastness of being. Perhaps knowing is not remembering a name or a face, but feeling a familiar warmth, a timeless presence, a love that says, "You are known and you are home."